the Chico Creates podcast, where we interview local artists, musicians, and makers here in Chico, California. I'm your host, Kira Barsodi, and with me today is Jessica Brierly.
Hello.
Jessica was raised in the Central Valley in Northern California, has a bachelor's degree in nutrition and food science from Chico State, and is a small business owner. At one point, she owned a brick-and-mortar shop with a focus on rehoming pre-loved items and selling artisan goods, including her own artwork, which could be described as a blend between mixed media, assemblage, and earth artist. Her eclectic nature shows up in her style and offerings and has helped her shape her distinctive creative vision. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's going to be really fun.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself beyond the bio.
All right. So, a little bit of history of me. I grew up hunting with my dad, so I spent a lot of time outdoors doing fishing and hunting with him, which got me my early interest in nature. However, my artwork sort of came to be later. Hadn't really had a lot of artistic expression as a younger person. I did a little bit of dance. It was kind of on my own as far as what I enjoyed doing, sort of solo activities for a while. And then as I got a little bit older, started doing art activities in college, like ceramics and sculpture and things like that, and sort of found a little bit of interest towards that tailored expression, which was really fun, as the other elements of my expression being my style and my design interest. Those came early on from my mom, who was regularly recreating our home and shopping at boutiques and putting herself together really well. So I had kind of that more masculine, outdoorsy side, and then that really feminine, girly side that I got to express early on, which was fun. So that kind of grew into adventure and festivals and different things as I got a little bit older, which continued to increase my exposure to different artists and my desire to push myself a little bit, both artistically through my expressive mediums that you said, and then my like fashion and things like that, and my desire to thrift and treasure hunt and all of that. So that's sort of how I evolved into the interest that I have. And then having had the background in nutrition, I did that for a little while, and then 2020 came to be, and I decided, my wages weren't necessarily anything to write home about, and if I was going to do anything, why not now? However, I decided just before 2020 that I was going to open my brick and mortar, and then it was you're already committed, so it's like whatever, right? So kind of like letting that ride out, and that's been really fun, and I've continued to navigate through that direction for a while, and have still an interest in some of the other things. You can't solely ride on pop-ups in markets, so right now, having gotten back to that, and then kind of looking at other things that I can do with my gifts.
It's always an experiment.
Totally, the great experiment.
All of life. So how long have you lived in Chico?
Well, I grew up in part in the Chico area.
Okay.
So Magalia, Red Bluff, Chico. I was here for 8 years through my senior year of high school, college, and a little thereafter. Moved away for about 9-ish years, 10-ish years. And then I returned back about a year and a half ago. So I'm recreating myself here where I was once developing in my earlier years, and now I'm back as more of a professional.
Almost a decade makes a difference.
Totally. There's a lot that's similar about Chico that I really love, and a lot that's changed that's kept it interesting, and had a lot to offer just throughout. And I was always visiting since I have family here and stuff. So my ties for Chico were always there. So just kind of like pulling you back in, as Chico does so many of us. There's those great places among all over the world, right? among the earth that call us in, and Chico's definitely one of those that people have a hard time leaving for too long.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a similar story. School took us away, and we found ourselves back. We found our way back.
Yeah. Which it's great to like leave a place, go explore, and then know that it's there for you if you want it again, right? And there's so much to admire and enjoy about Chico.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. So what brought you back, and what's keeping you here?
Oh, well, quite a few things brought me back, some less pleasant than others.
We have a similar story,
I was living in North Idaho for about 8 years, which is where a lot of my artistic endeavors really blossomed. And then my ex-husband and I decided we were going to swim in bigger waters and move to Austin, where he was from. And so we explored that for a few months. I had some loss in my family and some other currents that were in our relationship that really just came to a head. And I decided that wasn't for me. And in a lot of those regards, partner, life's, journey to Austin and everything. And I was like, I need to go on my own somewhere. Where will that be? And family and friends. And Chico was awaiting here. So I decided to just revert back here for a little while and kind of catch my grounding a little bit, build my boat back up so I can go and do whatever I want to do again. I really love traveling and I love exploring, but I'm a nester and I like to have a spot that I can return back to and replenish and recharge.
Chico's a very safe place to land.
It is.
We had a lot of things happen in a short amount of time that led us to come back to. So it was all bad things. Like we felt like we needed to circle the wagons, and it's just been great ever since. Like everything is
well, and it helps too. Like life's full of the ups and downs, right? The yin and yang, and so like knowing when you go through a strong current like that, like things calm down. And so that this too shall pass is always like in my head, like just being like, yes, it's here now and it won't be for long. And that goes for good things too. So like treasure it all, right? And the things that are less pleasant, they help us to enjoy the other things a little bit more, I think, sometimes. So not to say that I want stormy waters upon me, but
not to wish suffering upon ourselves or anyone else.
Exactly.
But
it is just what it
can
is.
be redeemed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite local place to hang out?
Oh, I have many. So, of course, the park, just like any and all wonderful places throughout the park really call to me. I love boutiques and pretty things. So I've been shopping small at Bootleg for a long while. The Peddler's Closet is such a vibe. Then there's, great places like the Winchester Goose or Duffy's for a little like evening something, I love like Lost and El Rey. Like I love the music that Chico offers too. There's so much live music. There's so much art. There's always different art events and gallery openings. And here at what was the Idea Fab Labs, and now so many more things that are housed in this space that lend themselves to different like pleasures in life, right? I love to dance. I'm regularly finding myself at ecstatic dances and things like that. So there's just so much abundance. It's hard. As we were talking about earlier, there's so many offerings in Chico throughout so many different ways to engage that I really appreciate having the abundance. A little bit of decision fatigue and like option overload that becomes, but I'd rather that than be in a place that didn't have as much going on. So that way I can actually be like, oh no, I'm feeling quite full off of all my social occasions and all of that delicious food and music and everything that is there and offered. So it's nice.
Well, and to that point, it feels like there is enough going on that what you choose to do is something you really do want to do.
That's true. That's true. And so Chico has that really like familial like feeling too, as you'll tend to find like your tribe at a lot of those places, right? So it's such a big community which offers a lot and has a lot of individuals that you can make new friends from, but then there's so many familiars that it's really like it has that quaint feeling of a small town in the same sense.
Yeah. There's definitely a village vibe too.
Yeah, totally.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your background in art and what led you to what you're currently making.
Yeah, so having had some of those classes in college that got me thinking about different ways to express myself, I really enjoyed collage work, especially like kind of putting a puzzle together of existing things. And my time in Idaho, even though I grew up hunting, we didn't save skulls and bones and, you know, my dad had a little section in the garage that was his taxidermy ducks over the gun safe and stuff. So his little man cave area. So it wasn't really something I was as familiar with as a style in people's homes and big cabins and stuff. But I was gifted this cow skull from my sister who found it on my grandmother's property. She has property in Red Bluff. She had cows and things. And she was like, here, I thought you might like this. And I enjoyed that like vibe because I've always had that gypsy, witchy, fairy feeling within, you know. And so I thought, you know, why not kind of make this feel a little more feminine? Because often when we see taxidermy or we see skulls, they can feel a little demonic or rugged or masculine, you know, and so sometimes people shy away from celebrating the animals in those ways. So I thought, well, if I can make it pretty with dried flowers and crystals and things like that. And so for myself, I did that for a little while, and then I participated in an art walk, and I was received really well, sold my first piece. I was feeling really on high of like, oh wow, like, you know, I'm making things that people would want to enjoy later in their homes as a part of their collections. And so that was sort of when I thought, oh, maybe shifting gears. And I was always doing pop-ups and different things for my pre-loved items as I curate selections of clothing and jewelry and things like that. And so I decided, well, what if I had a shop that was those pre-loved pieces and my art, but it would be a consignment, so keep a low overhead. I could do it with a limited budget, but I could also bring in guests with their own things, like kind of resupply my shop through individuals in the community and kind of keep it rolling, feed their closets with new things and their pocketbooks, and then have artists in there as well. So we were all feeding each other constantly with different style tips and artistic expressive inspiration. And so I really enjoyed having that outlet and the community connection of guests coming into the shop and being able to converse with them so regularly, especially in a time where that connection was really limited. So that was really nice. And I continually had different bones and skulls and things to work with as I had a network of farmers I was working with and had lived on many of the farms as well, and had hunters and different forestry individuals, like forestry workers that would bring me bones or have access to things and stuff. I found a few things at local auction and stuff. So I was really like well supplied. So I was able to just kind of like, you know, do my cleaning at home, and then I'd freshen up and make it all beautiful and like do all that, and then I'd bring it to the shop. And again, it was really well received. So I wanted to keep doing that as a way of like, it's feeding my soul, it's feeding other people's expression. And I just really love celebrating the animals too in a way that I didn't know as a younger person, you know, just like how much you could enjoy off of different ways to enjoy the animal after death. And so they're talismans of sorts.
Enjoy their meat, and then you get to continue to enjoy them.
And I always fur and hides and things like that. It's sad to waste things that have so much to offer still, right? And so, just kind of normalizing that a little bit for people that might want to enjoy it and giving it a different spin. And so it has different energy when you're home and things like that. And I love herbs and different metaphysical tools like tarot and things like that. So I read and offer sessions on tarot and animal spirit and things like of that nature. And then I love to create different things that make your home feel good and make individuals feel good. And so Just if it's like feeding you and nourishing you, you just want to keep doing it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So, I'm blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. So do you have any studio rituals or routines? Does it depend on what you're sitting down to do, or?
And it depends too. Like now I'm in a studio space where I was often working from home. Like I had a section of my home that was my studio. So my ritual looked a little different, having more that I had my hands in that space. But here, as far as, working within this space, I'd say when I come into my studio, I always, even though it smells like herbs, I'm so accustomed to it that I like to like burn a little incense or something like that. And I have different vessels that I burn a lot of the shed from the different flowers and plants and herbs that I'm working with too. So like a little cauldron of sorts. So I'll do little blessings. I like to cleanse all my bones before I work with them. And they're just regularly getting cleansed in my space, but ideally, giving each one a little blessing before, so that way it doesn't carry any harmful energy. Yeah. And then
who knows how that animal died?
Exactly. Some have a more cruel ending than others. Yes. Yeah. And so then I, just get to work with a little music or an audiobook or a podcast. Set the stage there, and I'm really about mood lighting and stuff. So even though I need brighter light when I'm hyper focusing on my meticulous little bits, I really enjoy having a little shield on some of the blinding light. So I've got, different curtains and things that are sort of softening that. And I'll have little lamps. So I turn on my little lamps and my soft lights. And check on my plants, make sure they're all good. So it's kind of just reacquainting myself with the space. Yeah. And I like to say goodbye to my space every time I leave it. So it's like, good night, Feronia, or, just kind of like that, welcoming and closing of whenever I'm there. So, yeah.
And the name Feronia, which is your studio now, but it's a name that you've kind of had for a while for everything that you do. It was
Feronia Boutique. Sort of Feronia design as I'm sort of moving around. So Feronia is a Roman goddess, wildlife and abundance and fertility, some of her attributes, and she's one that is said to have lived deep in the woods and doesn't come out frequently. And when she does, they hold the Festival of Feronia, which is in Scorpio season in November, which is my sun sign. And so I have this relation to her in those ways, and her sacred animal being rabbit and element of fire. Like I resonate with a lot of those things. Yeah. And so I tend to draw in a lot of her energy when I'm working on my pieces. And it's isolating work sometimes as an artist, you know, so I feel very happy having
nice
chosen
to have a collaborator.
Her essence is definitely shining through. And so, it was very fitting that I have that goddess as my muse, if you will. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And what does your creative practice look like on a day-to-day basis? Are you able to make it into the studio regularly, or?
When I'm motivated. Yes, I definitely would like to push myself a little bit further into the studio on a regular basis. Right now, it's a few times a week, and sometimes more, depending on when I have a show. And when the weather's really nice, it's
hard to want to go inside.
Exactly. Seasonally, it's more desirable to be in there or not. But I have quite a few shows coming up during the warmer seasons, and so I definitely need to propel myself a little bit more, which is great. When it's a little cooler out, some of the things I engage in my studio are a little different. Maybe I'm doing more readings or unpacking, settling in, organizing, more of that kind of stuff.
That totally makes sense as far as the energetics of the season.
Yeah. And I definitely need the fuel and the timbers, added from having events right away. So if I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing and when I'm doing it, it's a little less inspiring to get in there and really push myself. So I get some of that artistic expression conveyed through, having something to offer it at, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to be at a crystal and gem show. I'm going to really focus on trying to add in a little bit more of the crystals and stuff. Sometimes, they're a regular feature, and then sometimes I'll do different things. And so now I'm like, okay, I want to hone in a little bit more on that. Or I want to, if I'm doing an event, like I did a biker show recently, a motorcycle show, and that's a different venue for me. So okay, I want to have a little bit more richness and depth and a little more rock and roll, So
I can totally see how your stuff would work with that, though.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, and then I stay tried and true to just kind of that femme boho, floral element always, but there's a little lightness or a little more depth depending. So I'm definitely gonna be in the studio more and more as the shows are starting to show up and come out woodwork.
That's awesome. I love having some kind of creative boundary going into a project. Then you're able to, I don't know, something about boundaries lets me open up. Ironically.
It's tricky because I find when I have a commission or something where people have certain desires, I get
that's too
oh my
much.
gosh. I'm I don't know what to do now. Will they like it? I'm super stressed out. As opposed to just making whatever I want. I say I make every piece for me, and then in the hopes that somebody else will find that same desire and connection with the piece. Because we all have elements of ourselves that are similar to one another, right? So it's somebody's going to have that little flicker towards one piece over another, and so that's always exciting to see who calls in to what.
It's surprising sometimes.
Totally, or things I think this piece is probably going to be more sought after, and then I'll find that something that I thought was maybe a little overly embellished, which I tend to do. I tend to love to go a little bit more and I get really caught up in it, and so sometimes those pieces people really like simple, but then some people really like intricate. So you just never know. I might be like, oh, this really intricate piece might be one that sits a little longer waiting for the right person, and it could be the one that person just saw and was like, I'm so ready to go for that. So that's a really cool feeling too, to see that the response on my work when it's shared is really positive. And
that's one of the most difficult things about being an artist in business is you can't manufacture that spark for people.
No,
it's not that reliable.
And it's so vulnerable. And that's something I mentioned I'm a Scorpio, and that's the shy element that really comes out too, where I like to sort of I'm very vivacious in a lot of ways, but then I'm also really shy. So it's interesting that I, have chosen art as one of my professions currently, because it is a really vulnerable position to be in. You're saying, hey, this is a little expression of me. I'm putting it out there, and I'm also hoping to earn an income off of this, right?
Yes.
And so it's, people have to really invest in your work, both emotionally and financially. And so putting yourself out there in that way can be a little intimidating, but it's also a really rewarding thing to be able to live out your life's your soul's expression. That can also feed you in a physical sense too.
For sure. What is the best part about being an artist at Chico?
I think the best part is, as we mentioned, there is so much art in Chico. It's so inspiring. Right? So everywhere I go, somebody's doing something different. And whether or not that's ever going to make its way into my medium or my wheelhouse, it's also something that's interesting and intriguing and feeds the mind and soul. Right? So then it just fuels me of oh, I love how they're able to express themselves. I want to keep working on that part of me as well. Or I love that they incorporated something like that. I would never do that, and so I love to see how people push their bounds a little bit more with art, and it helps me maybe push myself out of my comfort zone of doing things that I might think are more modest, and then I'm oh, get a little more wild. Why not? So it really helps, and so that is one element of that abundance of Chico that just really fuels.
I've been loving the group shows lately that I've been seeing around town. It's really fun to see all the different approaches to a theme, or just all the different expressions, and there's some really stunning work in town. So it's very inspiring.
There's incredibly fine artists out there, and then we have some people that are working with, scraps and trash and really putting it up in a way that you're like, wow, that can still be something.
Yes.
And so,
I love seeing that too.
There's such a variety. And it can all complement, right?
Yeah.
You could have some really refined work next to something that kind of looks messy, but it has its like organized chaos with it, and it all complements. Like, that's what I think is really great about those collaborative shows, as you mentioned, because they work together, and then it shows how somebody might in their home have a variety of styles offered as well, and not just stick to one theme, which can be nice in one way, but many of us are very eclectic and we have many things we like. So.
Yes, we each contain multitudes.
Exactly. And we want to support other artists. As an artist myself, it's like a compulsion. It's like whenever I see art, I'm like, well, I have to support them. Like I need to, so I buy a lot of art, and then, in return, I hope that, people will want to invest in mine as well. Yeah. You just keep feeding the cycle, right? Let's all do what we love and help support it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Do you have any ongoing or upcoming projects that you're excited about?
Yeah, I do actually. At the end of this month, I've got the Crystal and Gem Mineral Show up in Paradise. So that's nice. April 26th and 27th, that's Saturday, Sunday. And then I'm in Arcata the first weekend of May.
Awesome.
So May 3rd, my friend's got this Mystic Mixer. It's all like holistic healers and medicine workers and all my offerings. And then let's see, I've got a few other biker shows.
Nice.
Those aren't till like August, September, but I'll be in Seattle and in Boise for those, all popped up, and the Party at the Pen. And then I'm going to be doing a bit of traveling here and there, so things will continue to pop up, I'm sure. A few, personal endeavors that I'll be going to different festivals and stuff, and maybe something will pop up in that realm as well.
Yeah.
And then local stuff's always an opportunity. I'm always seeking opportunities for how to engage in local events too. So,
Yeah. And, as we've said, there's tons.
Totally, yeah. Sometimes that's a challenge as markets and events fill up quickly, and things are regularly booked out because there's so many of us that look to express ourselves, and even with the abundance, it just is still a little challenging to make it all happen. Hopefully just kind of keeping the feelers out, and finding those little niche spots, whether it be a show up at a cafe or a collaborative gallery event, or maybe my own show or something. So awesome. And I do have, in part of my studio here, I have a little like boutique parlor in the front of my space. And so I still host readings and have little private sale sessions and things like that within my current studio space. So that works in part, but it is nice to kind of get yourself out there a little bit more, have the exposure and the environment of everybody enjoying the general splendor of an event.
Yeah, for sure. Too. It's a very different energy.
Yes, exactly.
Well, very cool. How can people find you online?
Yeah, so I have Instagram and Facebook, Feronia Designs. Website's still back underwater. Maybe that'll resurface later. But socials are great. And then through that, you can find my regular contact, email and things if you wanted to get a hold of me, or just direct message for private shopping events or tarot and things of that nature.
Awesome. Very cool. Was there anything else that you wanted to share or talk about?
I suppose we kind of, just circled around a lot of things.
I
think we got to the gist of it. I love what I do. I love that you were able to have me here to share a little bit about that.
Of course.
And I just really appreciate what life has to offer. Service. There's that, right?
Yes. For sure. A recurring theme I've noticed. I'm at the end of a long recording day for this episode is kind of, you never know when that like spark is going to hit. You can't, like I said earlier, you can't manufacture the spark, and And it seems like, with this conversation, we've been talking a lot about, experimentation and trying to find thing that's going to work, and one thing leads to another.
Totally.
Yeah. Following the path.
Yeah. The path. It has so many options.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which one will we take next?
Yeah, for sure.
Which is a good problem to have.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are lots of options.
Totally. And it's healing work. So I'm really blessed to be able to have that opportunity to work in a modality that feels good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. With that, we will see you around town. Bye.
Bye.
The Chico Creates podcast is presented by and recorded at Maker Radio in Chico, California. Hosted and produced by Kira Barsodi. Production engineering and editing by Solomon Perillo. Theme song is Take Your Time by Lorna Such. We now have official merchandise: hats, totes, mugs, shirts for the whole family, and more at ChicoCreates.com. Sport your support of the show with official Chico Creates podcast merch. This show is made possible by community members like you. I would personally like to thank Melissa Thede, David LaShawn Montoya, Jonathan Greenfield, Heather Leveroni, Kaylee Huber, Troy German, Kate Thurkill, Bonnie Pipkin, Lindsay Hook, Bree Epley, Scott Grisette, and Johan Caro for their continued financial support of this project. If you'd like to join them, head over to ChicoCreates.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to become a show supporter. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you around town.